Far away in the galaxy there was an old ruin on a cold and empty planet. The ruin was not built by the local people. It was much older, made of strange black stone that seemed to drink the light around it. Explorers from many alien races came to see it, but most of them laughed when they read the messages carved into the walls. The carvings were written in many ancient tongues, as if different civilizations through time had added their warnings here. And all of them spoke of one world, a world called Earth, and of the strange humans that lived there. The carvings said one thing again and again: do not anger them. Do not provoke them. Do not fight them. If they rise, the galaxy will burn. But the aliens only laughed. Why would anyone fear a small blue planet in the corner of a spiral arm? When the reports came back to the councils of the great empires, they dismissed it as superstition and primitive fear. The elders of the Rural Empire said, humans are nothing. Their world is nothing. They will remain weak and divided forever. The merchants of the Vela Union agreed. They are too small to matter. We will trade with them when they leave their home system. But we will never fear them. Even the warriors of the core dominion laughed loudest of all. They said, if these humans ever come to the stars, we will crush them before they can build even one fleet. Yet not everyone laughed. There were a few who looked at the ruins with cold and worried eyes. One was an old historian of the Shar Collective. He had studied the strange ruins for years, and he believed the warnings were true. He told the council, do not underestimate the humans. Every line here was written after a disaster. Entire civilizations placed these warnings after meeting them. But nobody listened to him. Another was an elder of the gentle Let-Hari. She whispered, I saw their eyes once. I saw the way they fight even among themselves. They are not like us. They are something else. But her voice was drowned out in the noise of laughter. The galaxy turned away, ignoring the ruins, ignoring the words that had been carved across thousands of years. Meanwhile, on Earth, humans had no idea that the galaxy was even watching. They were still building their first slow ships, still reaching out into the dark with fragile machines and simple rockets. They did not know that their name was written in warnings on forgotten stone worlds. They did not know the galaxy thought them small and weak. But there were signs even then. Human history was full of endless wars, endless survival against storms, plagues, and disasters. They fought each other with fire, with iron, with steel, and finally with machines that could wipe out millions. And every time they fell, they rose again. The ruins had been telling the truth all along, but the galaxy did not want to believe. One night, deep in the Shar Collective, the historian looked up at the stars and shivered. He saw that Earth signals had reached the galaxy. He heard the strange human music and voices moving across the void. He whispered to himself, "It begins." But when he carried this warning to the Council of Races, they silenced him. They said, "You speak nonsense. They are only children playing with fire. We are the masters of the stars." The historian looked at their proud faces and felt despair, because he knew children playing with fire could one day set the entire forest ablaze. In the dark chambers of another empire, the core warlords made plans. They had heard the same signals from Earth, and instead of fear, they felt hunger. They wanted to enslave the humans before they grew strong. They wanted to use them as soldiers, as workers, as tools. "They are nothing but prey," one warlord said. "We will strike them when they step beyond their little system." But in the shadows of the ruins, the black stone seemed to whisper with voices no one could hear. The carvings seemed to glow faintly as if warning the galaxy once more. Do not fight them. Do not touch them. Do not wake the sleeping fire. Yet the galaxy was arrogant. It had grown proud, lazy, and blind. And so the warnings went unheard. The story spread as a joke, a legend told in alien bars and marketplaces. "Beware the humans," they said with laughter, "or they will burn the galaxy." Nobody believed it. Nobody except the few who had studied too long and seen too much. But the truth does not change because of laughter. The truth waits. And so Earth continued to grow. Humanity slowly prepared its path to the stars. And somewhere in the silence of space, the galaxy drifted closer and closer to the consequences of ignoring every warning it had been given. The stage was set, though no one yet realized it. The historian of the Shar sighed as he wrote in his records, "We have been warned. We have ignored it. One day soon, we will all pay the price." That was the beginning, the first mistake. The galaxy had been warned. But the warning was never believed. The galaxy moved on, forgetting the ruins and forgetting the old words carved in stone. Yet while the alien empires laughed, Earth began to change. Humanity had left their small blue world and reached out into the dark. At first their ships were fragile, slow vessels with weak engines and thin armor. They looked like toys compared to the mighty fleets of the galaxy. But these toys carried something far more dangerous than weapons. They carried human determination. When the first human explorers crossed into alien space, they were greeted with curiosity. Some alien merchants welcomed them, thinking these newcomers would make easy customers. Others looked at them as future slaves, weak bodies that could be used for labor. A few even saw them as pets, amusing creatures to be studied and mocked. But the humans did not seem insulted. They only watched and listened. They traded small things, learned the languages, copied technologies, and returned to Earth with everything they had seen. It was then that the first whispers began. Reports from alien spies spoke of how quickly humans were learning. A race that should have taken centuries to master the basics was moving with impossible speed. Where others required 100 years to build fleets, humans could do it in a single decade. Some said it was impossible. Others said it was a lie. But the warnings grew. One Vela merchant wrote in his log, "I traded with them 5 years ago. Their ships were weak and slow. I returned today, and they already had faster engines than mine. What are these creatures?" His warning was ignored, like all the others. Among the empires, the idea of human strength was a joke. In council chambers, alien rulers declared, "Let them grow. Let them build. They will always remain beneath us." But beneath that arrogance, fear was beginning to spread. The humans had a strange way of adapting to everything. On toxic worlds where no alien dared to step, humans built colonies. In deep voids with endless storms, humans mined resources. In battles against pirates, their small ships fought with a fury that seemed impossible for their size. The galaxy began to notice. The core Dominion was the first to test them. A fleet of core warships ambushed a small human convoy near the edge of settled space. The core expected an easy victory, but the humans did not surrender. With old guns and improvised weapons, they fought until the last ship burned. Not one human vessel ran away. The survivors rammed their broken ships into core cruisers, destroying them in fire. When the report reached the Dominion, the warlords laughed. "They are mad animals," they said. But animals can be crushed. Yet even in their laughter, a seed of doubt had been planted. Who would fight so hard for a single convoy? Who would choose death over surrender? Meanwhile, the humans remembered. They rebuilt their losses quickly, faster than any alien expected. And when their ships returned to the stars, they were stronger, faster, and deadlier. Another empire tried to cheat them in trade. The humans did not forget. 10 years later, that empire's trade routes were empty, their markets ruined, their colonies abandoned. Nobody could prove the humans had caused it, but everyone suspected. The truth was simple: humanity had entered the galaxy. And they were not leaving. In the dark halls of the Shar Collective, the old historian watched in silence. He saw every report, every warning, every sign. He remembered the ruins on the black stone world. He remembered the words, "Do not fight them." He wrote in his journal, "It has begun. The galaxy does not yet see it, but the warnings were real. The fire is awake." But the councils were still blind. They saw humans as stubborn but weak. They said, "Their fleets are nothing. Their colonies are nothing. They cannot stand against united empires." and so they laughed again. But deep in the hearts of their people, whispers spread. Whispers of ships that grew stronger after every battle. Whispers of humans who would fight even when outnumbered 10-1. Whispers of a species that refused to die. The galaxy had been warned once, but it had not listened. Now it was being warned again, not by old carvings, but by blood and fire. And still, it refused to believe. Humanity continued to rise, step by step, higher and higher, like a shadow stretching across the stars. The galaxy thought it had time. The galaxy thought humans were still too small to matter. But the galaxy was wrong. The warning had been ignored once more, and soon, the consequences would arrive. The galaxy did not have to wait long for the first true mistake. The humans had already proven they could trade, adapt, and grow faster than anyone expected, but many empires still saw them as weak. Among these, the core Dominion grew impatient. Their warlords believed the humans were an insult, a primitive race daring to step into the stars without permission. So the Dominion decided to make an example. A fleet of warships was sent to raid a new human colony at the edge of known space. The colony was small, barely a few thousand settlers with light defenses and a handful of patrol craft. The core expected an easy victory. They wanted to show the galaxy that humans were nothing but children with toys. The fleet came out of the void and fell upon the colony with fire. The first human patrol ships were destroyed in minutes. The core laughed as they bombarded the surface, confident no resistance could stand. But then something unexpected happened. The humans fought back. The settlers on the ground refused to surrender. They used mining equipment as weapons, turned construction vehicles into tanks, and fired back at the invaders with anything they could find. Even when their homes burned, they kept fighting. In orbit, the last surviving human patrol craft did not run. They rammed themselves into the core ships, damaging cruisers and destroying a battleship in an explosion that lit up the stars. For the core it was supposed to be a simple raid, but it became a nightmare. Reports of the resistance shocked the commanders. These were not trained soldiers. These were civilians, miners, workers, farmers, yet they fought like fanatics. By the time the core pulled back, their fleet had lost half its strength. And though the colony lay in ruins, it was not truly defeated. Survivors remained, hiding in caves, refusing to die. Word of the attack spread quickly across the galaxy. Other empires expected the humans to beg for peace, to plead with the core to stop. Instead, the humans rebuilt. In only a few years, the ruined colony was thriving again. But this time its defenses were stronger, its fleet larger, its people harder. The core Dominion declared victory, but in truth they had planted a seed of vengeance. Humanity never forgot. The first mistake had been made, and it belonged to the core. In the councils of the galaxy, leaders dismissed the incident. They said, the humans lost their colony. That is all that matters. But whispers grew among merchants and travelers. They told stories of humans who fought even when death was certain. They spoke of convoys that never surrendered, of soldiers who fought until their ships exploded around them. The old historian of the Shar Collective listened to these whispers with dread. He remembered the black ruins, the carved warnings. He wrote, "The first mistake has been made. They have been tested, and they did not break. They will never break." But no one listened to him, just as before. The great empires thought they had time. They thought the humans would stay small, forever fighting only to survive. They did not see how quickly humanity was learning. In secret, human fleets grew. Their ships carried scars from past battles, but each scar became a lesson. Every destroyed vessel taught them how to build better armor, better weapons, better engines. And behind every human commander was the memory of loss, the memory of the core raid. They did not forgive. They did not forget. Soon, the humans struck back. Not with massive fleets, not with overwhelming numbers, but with cunning. Small human warships began ambushing core patrols, attacking supply lines, and disappearing before reinforcements could arrive. The Dominion grew furious, unable to understand how such a young race could fight with such skill. They tried to crush the humans again, sending larger fleets, but the humans adapted. They never fought on the enemy's terms. They chose the time, the place, and the method, turning every battle into a trap. The more the core attacked, the more they lost. And each loss fed the legend of humanity. Across the galaxy, people began to whisper with fear and awe. Some asked, "Are they really so dangerous? Are the warnings true?" Others laughed still, but their laughter was nervous now. They remembered the old carvings that spoke of fire, of war, of survival beyond reason. The galaxy had been warned, and the warning had been ignored. Now, with every battle, humanity was proving why those warnings had been carved in stone. The first mistake had been made by the core dominion, but the consequences would soon spread to everyone. Humanity had been tested, and instead of breaking, they had risen stronger. The fire had been lit, and the galaxy did not yet realize how far the flames would reach. The galaxy had begun to whisper, but whispers were not enough to change the minds of the great empires. The attack on the human colony and the small raids that followed should have been a warning, but the leaders of the galaxy chose arrogance over wisdom. They looked at the humans as pests, annoying but not dangerous. Yet fear was spreading among the ordinary people of the galaxy. Merchants avoided human routes. Smugglers refused to cross their space. Even pirates who once hunted them now spoke in quiet voices about how the humans fought like demons. In the grand halls of the Galactic Council, the rulers of many empires gathered. The chamber was full of voices, each louder than the last, each desperate to be heard. Some demanded war, some demanded caution, and a few demanded peace. The council leader, a tall Vela noble, slammed his staff and silenced the chamber. He declared, "This human problem must end. They are not strong enough to threaten us, but their actions inspire unrest. If left unchecked, they may cause chaos across the stars." The core dominion warlord laughed and shouted, "We already taught them a lesson. If more is needed, then we will burn their worlds until none remain." But another voice rose, softer yet more dangerous. It came from the Let-Hari elder who had seen humanity before. She said, "You do not understand them. You think they are like us, but they are not. Every time you strike them, they rise stronger. Every time you destroy, they rebuild faster. The warnings were not lies. The ruins told us the truth. Do not fight them. Do not test them. If you continue, you will awaken something the galaxy cannot control." Her words echoed in the chamber, but the council laughed. The noble from the Vela Union dismissed her warning. "They are one world against thousands. They are nothing. And if they ever rise, we will crush them together." The council then voted. The decision was clear. All empires would unite if humanity dared to expand too far. If Earth threatened the balance, the galaxy would bring war to their doorstep. Outside the chamber, however, fear grew. Rumors told of human fleets striking back against the core. Refugees spoke of colonies rebuilt in record time. Merchants swore that human ships grew stronger after every encounter. Soldiers who had faced them told stories of battles where humans fought even when surrounded, even when death was certain. These stories spread like fire, carried from port to port, whispered in every shadowed corner. Soon entire populations began to wonder if their leaders were blind. The Shar historian, who had warned again and again, wrote another line in his records: "The council has chosen arrogance. They believe their numbers will save them, but they do not see that numbers mean nothing to those who refuse to die. The humans have already been tested, and they are not prey. They are predators waiting for their time." On Earth, humanity watched all of this with cold eyes. They had seen the council's vote. They knew the empires would unite against them if they grew too strong. Instead of fear, they felt determination. Every nation, every colony, every shipyard began to work with one purpose. They built warships, trained soldiers, and prepared for the storm they knew was coming. But they did not rush. They were patient. They let the galaxy laugh. They let the galaxy believe they were small. Because humanity had learned through centuries of history that patience was a weapon. They would strike only when the time was right. Meanwhile, the empires grew restless. Some wanted to act first and crush the humans before they could rise. Others wanted to wait and see. But all of them agreed on one thing: humanity could not be trusted. Fear had already begun to change the galaxy. Alliances that had been stable for centuries began to crack. Trade routes were disrupted. Armies were moved closer to human space. Every empire prepared for war, even as they told their people that humans were weak. And still, humanity grew. In secret shipyards hidden in asteroid belts and barren moons, they built fleets faster than anyone expected. In training camps across Earth and its colonies, they forged soldiers who carried the memory of loss and vengeance. The galaxy thought it had time, but the galaxy was wrong. The warnings carved in stone had said the same thing. Do not fight them. Do not provoke them. Do not awaken them. But the warnings had been ignored again. And now fear spread across the stars, not as a whisper, but as a shadow. The shadow of humanity rising, step by step, toward the day when the galaxy would face the consequences. The day finally came when the galaxy could no longer pretend that humanity was only a rumor or a minor problem. The Council had made its choice, and the great powers prepared for war. Massive fleets gathered in deep space, made of ships from many empires. Cruisers, carriers, and dreadnoughts stood side by side, their banners shining in the void. Never before had so many alien nations united for a single purpose. They believed their numbers alone would end the human threat before it could grow too large. To the rulers, it was simple: strike Earth's colonies, destroy their fleets, and force them into submission. Yet among the common people of the galaxy there was unease. The stories of human defiance were spreading faster than the Council could silence them. Refugees whispered about convoys that fought to the last ship. Merchants told tales of human colonies that rebuilt in years what took others a century. Soldiers who had faced them spoke of eyes filled with fire, of enemies who fought even after their bodies were broken. These whispers grew into fear, and fear grew into doubt. But the Council did not hear doubt. It heard only its own pride. And so the greatest war fleet the galaxy had ever seen was launched toward human space. When the human colonies received word, there was no panic. There was no begging for mercy. There was only silence and preparation. The shipyards of Earth and Mars glowed with fire as new vessels rolled out one after another. Old cargo ships were turned into warships. Mining drones were turned into automated weapons. Civilians volunteered in numbers too large to count. Humanity was ready. They remembered the core raids. They remembered the colonies that had burned. They remembered every insult, every loss, every death. And they swore that this time they would not be prey. The first great battle came at the edge of human space, near a lonely colony world called Halden's Reach. The Coalition fleet expected a quick victory. Their numbers were overwhelming, their weapons unmatched, their confidence unshaken. But when the first wave of ships advanced, they were met with something they had never faced before. The humans did not retreat. They did not scatter. They attacked. Small, fast ships darted between the massive alien cruisers, striking at weak points with deadly precision. Human fleets fought like no other, not relying on numbers or strength, but on cunning, creativity, and sheer willpower. They turned the battlefield into chaos, laying traps, faking retreats, and ambushing ships in swarms. Entire squadrons of alien vessels vanished in minutes, torn apart by coordinated human strikes. For every human ship destroyed, 2 alien ships followed. The Coalition commanders were shocked. This was not how a young race should fight. They should have been desperate, clumsy, unorganized. Instead, they fought with discipline that came from centuries of surviving their own wars. As the battle raged, alien captains began to fear. Reports spoke of human soldiers boarding enemy ships, fighting hand-to-hand in brutal combat, refusing to surrender even when wounded. One alien officer described them with trembling words: "They fight like they do not know what fear is. They fight like death means nothing." By the time the Coalition fleet pulled back from Halden's Reach, thousands of ships had been lost. The humans had suffered terrible losses too, but unlike the aliens, they did not consider it defeat. Every loss became fuel for their fury. Every destroyed ship became a reason to build 10 more. In the council chambers, silence filled the air when the reports arrived. The noble rulers who had laughed at humanity now sat pale and uncertain. Yet still their pride held them back. They told themselves, "It was only one battle. We will gather more ships, more soldiers, and next time we will win." But deep in their hearts, doubt had taken root. The galaxy was beginning to realize that the warnings carved in the ruins were not old superstitions. They were truth. The humans were not prey. They were predators who grew stronger with every strike against them. And now the galaxy had given them the very thing they needed most, a war to sharpen their claws. The humans prepared for the next assault, knowing it would come. And the galaxy, blind with arrogance, marched ever closer to the fire it had been warned about since the beginning. The war had begun, and the galaxy had already made its second mistake. The war did not end at Halden's Reach. That battle was only the beginning. The coalition of alien empires returned to their homeworlds with heavy losses, and though their leaders tried to claim victory, everyone knew the truth. Humanity had stood against the greatest fleet ever assembled and had not been broken. That truth spread through the galaxy faster than any ship. Traders spoke of it in hidden markets, soldiers whispered of it in the barracks, and even children in alien schools repeated the story. The humans had survived. Fear began to grow. The council gathered once more, desperate to explain the defeat. Some argued that the coalition commanders had been careless, others claimed the humans had simply been lucky. But the truth was harder to accept. The humans fought with a fury that no strategy could predict. Every mistake made by the coalition became a weapon in human hands. Every weakness was found and exploited. Still, the council refused to believe the warnings. They told themselves, "One more fleet, one greater force, and the humans will fall." But while the council argued, the humans prepared. What the galaxy did not understand was that war was not new to humanity. For thousands of years they had fought wars against themselves. They had survived plagues, disasters, and weapons of fire powerful enough to destroy entire cities. They had learned through endless struggle that survival required more than numbers. It required imagination, cunning, and the will to keep fighting when all seemed lost. Now those lessons were turned against the galaxy. Human engineers studied every piece of wreckage from Halden's Reach. Within months they created stronger armor, faster engines, and deadlier weapons. Human soldiers trained not only with guns and ships but with strategies that confused and shocked their enemies. They studied the tactics of every alien race and twisted them into something new. When spies brought word of another massive coalition fleet forming, humanity did not panic. They sharpened their blades. The Second Great Campaign began when the coalition tried to invade a human colony on a world called Reiner's Gate. This time the aliens came with overwhelming numbers, believing they could crush humanity with sheer power. But the humans were ready. They had fortified the planet with hidden defenses, traps buried under the soil, and orbital cannons disguised as mining stations. When the fleet arrived, they fell into the trap. Explosions ripped through their lines before the battle even began. Human ships emerged from hidden positions, cutting the coalition apart piece by piece. The battle turned into chaos, and once again the aliens faced something they did not understand. Humans fought as if every soldier carried the weight of their entire species. They did not flee. They did not surrender. They fought with a determination that seemed beyond reason. One alien commander reported in terror, "They use everything. The rocks, the storms, even their broken ships. Nothing is wasted. They turn the battlefield itself into their weapon." When the coalition finally retreated, they left behind thousands of wrecks burning in space. The humans stood victorious once again, bloodied but unbroken. The galaxy could no longer ignore the truth. The warnings on the ruins were real. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was a storm. In the halls of the council, arguments turned into fear. Some demanded peace, whispering that it was too late to stop the humans. Others demanded total war, believing that if every empire struck together, humanity could still be destroyed. But beneath their words was the same fear, the same doubt. The old historian of the Shar Collective wrote in his journal, "The galaxy does not yet understand what it has awakened. The humans fight with the strength of every war they have ever survived. They carry their history into battle, and their history is endless conflict. They are not new. They are ancient, shaped by fire and blood. The galaxy fights a species that has never known peace." On Earth, humanity did not celebrate. They knew the war was far from over. They built more ships, trained more soldiers, and prepared for battles still to come. The people whispered to each other not of victory, but of survival. They remembered the ruins they had never seen, the warnings carved by ancient hands. Though they did not know the exact words, they felt the truth in their bones. The galaxy had been warned, and now the galaxy would face the consequences. The fire was spreading. The coalition had tried to stamp it out, but each strike only made it burn hotter. And in the shadows of the stars, humanity's true nature was being revealed. They were not the weakest race in the galaxy. They were the most dangerous. The second great campaign had ended in ruin for the coalition. The third would come soon, and when it did, the galaxy would finally see the full extent of what it had unleashed. The galaxy had begun to fracture under the weight of its own arrogance. Two great campaigns had been launched against humanity, and both had ended in disaster. The coalition fleets that were meant to crush Earth had instead been torn apart, leaving wreckage scattered across human space. The empires that once laughed at humanity now spoke in private with fear. Their leaders still stood tall in public, declaring that victory was only delayed, but in the shadows they argued bitterly. Old rivalries began to resurface. The Vela accused the Core of being reckless. The Core shouted that the Shar were cowards who never committed their full strength. The Shar in turn accused the Vela of betrayal. The great coalition that once stood united now cracked under the pressure of defeat. And all the while, humanity grew stronger. Every broken ship was studied and rebuilt into something better. Every colony that burned was rebuilt faster than before. Every soldier who died was remembered, and their memory fueled the rage of the living. The galaxy did not understand that humans carried every loss as fuel for vengeance. The more they suffered, the more dangerous they became. The collapse began slowly. Small fleets refused to fight again, claiming their homeworlds could not afford more losses. Trade routes once guarded by the coalition were left unprotected. Pirates returned, sensing weakness, but soon even they were afraid as human patrols hunted them down with merciless efficiency. In the council chambers, chaos reigned. The noble Vela leader demanded more ships and soldiers to continue the war, but half the empires refused. Some had already lost too much. Others had begun to whisper that perhaps peace with humanity was the only way. But pride was a heavy chain, and many leaders could not admit the truth. They said, "If we surrender now, humanity will see us as weak and they will destroy us anyway." Fear twisted their judgment, and fear turned into anger. The humans meanwhile had no need for speeches or politics. They moved forward with clear purpose. Their fleets expanded, their armies grew, and their colonies spread into the void. Where alien empires hesitated, humanity acted. Where others argued, humanity built. Soon entire regions of space once ruled by alien powers were abandoned to human settlers. The galaxy had given them war, and humanity used that war to carve a place among the stars. The breaking point came when a massive human fleet appeared at the borders of the Core Dominion. The warlords had promised their people that they would crush the humans once and for all, but instead their worlds began to fall one by one. Human fleets struck with precision, cutting supply lines, isolating planets, and then attacking with overwhelming fury. The Core fought bravely, but their courage faltered when they realized the humans did not stop. Even when outnumbered, even when battered, the humans always came back. They never gave their enemies time to rest. As the Dominion crumbled, the galaxy watched in silence. One of the strongest empires was being broken by a species that only decades ago had barely left its home system. Panic spread across the stars. In markets and ports, the whispers turned into cries of fear. The warnings were true, they said. The ruins told us this would happen. We laughed, and now it is too late. The Shar historian wrote in despair, the galaxy is unraveling. The humans do not destroy with numbers, but with fear. Every empire now trembles not at their weapons, but at their refusal to die. We have awakened an enemy that cannot be defeated by force. As the great powers collapsed, smaller species began to surrender without even being asked. They sent envoys to human colonies, begging for peace, offering resources and loyalty in exchange for survival. Humanity accepted some, ignored others, but always pushed forward. They did not need to conquer every world. The fear of their approach was enough to make entire regions submit. The Council tried one last time to rally its members, but half of them refused to fight. The unity of the galaxy was gone. Where once the empires stood together, now they looked only to their own survival. Humanity had not only won battles. Humanity had shattered the balance of the galaxy. In the ruins of fallen fleets and broken alliances, one truth became clear: the old order was gone. A new power had risen, a power born of endless struggle and fueled by vengeance. And as human warships approached the capitals of the once proud empires, the galaxy finally began to understand what the ruins had meant. The warnings were never exaggerations. They were promises. Humanity had been provoked, and now the galaxy faced the consequences. The galaxy had reached its breaking point. The Great Coalition was gone, its fleets shattered and its alliances destroyed. The once mighty core dominion lay in ruins, their proud warlords defeated and their capital worlds burning under human bombardment. Other empires that had once laughed at the idea of human strength now sat in silence, their leaders trembling as reports of human victories spread like fire. The Vela Union closed its borders, terrified that humanity would come for them next. The Shar Collective withdrew its fleets, pretending neutrality, though its people whispered that the old historian had been right all along. The Let Hari, who had warned the Council from the beginning, sent envoys to Earth to beg for peace. But it was too late for peace. Humanity had been provoked too many times. They remembered every insult, every betrayal, every colony burned. Now their fleets moved across the stars not just to defend, but to conquer. Entire regions once ruled by alien empires fell under human control. Some worlds resisted, but their resistance was crushed with brutal efficiency. Other worlds surrendered without a fight, their rulers handing over power rather than face the fury of mankind. Fear was humanity's greatest weapon, and the galaxy was drowning in it. In the markets of distant space stations, merchants whispered that human fleets were unstoppable. In the halls of alien governments, rulers argued not over how to defeat the humans but how to survive them. Some begged for alliances, others plotted betrayals, but none could ignore the truth. Humanity was no longer a small race from a forgotten world. Humanity had become a storm sweeping across the galaxy. The old historian of the Shar wrote in his final record, the warnings were true. The ruins spoke with the voices of civilizations that came before us. They tried to warn us, but we did not listen. We believed ourselves wise, but we were blind. Humanity is not prey. Humanity is the fire that consumes the forest. The galaxy ignored the warnings, and now the galaxy burns. On Earth, there was no celebration, only grim resolve. Human leaders spoke to their people with clear words. We did not ask for this war, but it was forced upon us. We did not seek conquest, but we will not forgive. Those who raised their hands against us will pay the price. Their words were met not with cheers but with silence and determination. Humanity did not fight for glory. Humanity fought for survival, and survival demanded nothing less than total victory. As human fleets pushed deeper into alien space, entire civilizations crumbled. The mighty Vela Union, once proud of its wealth and power, collapsed after its trade routes were cut and its fleets destroyed. The Shar Collective, desperate to avoid destruction, signed treaties of surrender, offering resources and technology in exchange for mercy. The Let Hari were spared, not because of their strength, but because they had warned the galaxy from the beginning. One by one, the empires that had once ruled the stars bowed their heads. But humanity did not stop. They could not stop. The fire that had been awakened could no longer be contained. The galaxy had provoked them, and now the galaxy belonged to them. In the end, the Council of Races gathered for the last time. The chamber that had once been filled with pride and arrogance now sat in silence as human envoys entered. No one spoke. No one laughed. No one dared to defy the new masters of the stars. The human commander stood before them and said only one thing. The warnings were ignored. The consequences are here. With those words, the council was dissolved. The old order was dead, replaced by the will of humanity. Across the stars, alien worlds looked to the night sky and saw human warships passing overhead. Some saw them as conquerors, others as protectors, but all saw them as the new power that could not be challenged. The ruins on the Black Stone planet had been right all along. Humanity had risen, and the galaxy faced the price of ignoring every warning it had been given. Silence fell across the stars, broken only by the sound of human engines as they spread from system to system. The age of alien dominance was over. The age of humanity had begun. And in the deep void, the fire burned on, unstoppable and eternal. The galaxy thought humanity would fall, but instead the galaxy itself has fallen. The warnings were ignored, the lessons forgotten, and now the consequences have reshaped the stars. The age of the old empires is over. The age of humanity has begun. But the story is not finished. Because in the deep void, beyond even human reach, something ancient stirs. Something that watched. Something that waited. Humanity has defeated the galaxy, but soon they may face something far greater.